This is a PowerPoint presentation for carrying out a risk assessment for dance classes in room B55. Firstly, what is a risk assessment? A risk assessment is defined as the process or method where one identifies hazards and risk factors which potentially can cause harm. Analyzing and evaluating the risks associated with identified hazards is known as risk analysis and risk evaluation. A hazard is defined as anything that can cause harm to an individual. A risk is defined as a likelihood, big or small, that an individual may be harmed by that hazard, in addition to the severity of the injury suffered. Are there different forms of risk assessments for different situations? Yes, there are. There are two varying forms of risk assessments. The first is quantitative risk analysis, which uses available data to produce a numerical value which is then used to predict the probability and hence acceptability of a risk event outcome. Secondly, qualitative risk analysis, on the other hand, applies a subjective assessment of risk occurrence or likelihood against the potential severity of the risk outcomes or impact to determine the overall severity of a risk. Tasks to be conducted to carry out the risk assessment. Room B55 to be visited to gain visual cue as to suitability for dance classes. Take note of arrangement of classroom and dimensions. Measured temperature and lighting levels in room B55 and confirmed they were appropriate. Access and egress established for numbers attending class and location of assembly point. First aid kit, defibrillator and certified first aider to be on site during dance classes. Assessed the manual handling element of removing furniture from the room for dance classes. Assessed demographic of dance class to ensure all needs are catered for. The 5 elements to conducting a risk assessment. 1. Identify the hazards. That is, establish if they are physical, health, chemical, or human factor hazards and can be seen below. Slips, trips and falls caused by sports bags on floor, water bottles spilling, electrical leads laid across floor. Access and egress. Emergency procedures to be taken in the event of an incident. Manual handling. Moving of furniture. The room environment, that is, heating and lighting. Stairs. Ensure well-lit stairwell for ease of movement and evacuation if necessary. 2. Assess the risk. Calculate the potential for a hazard to cause harm. If harm can be caused, how serious could it be? How many people at any given time may be exposed to this? Quantify if the risk is low, medium or high using a 3x3 risk matrix. Step 3. Consider the control measures and implement them. Can the hazard be disposed of altogether? Can the job be altered to make it safer? If not, what safety precautions are necessary to control the risk? Reduce the risk by using the hierarchy of controls seen below. Step 4. Record the findings and communicate same. Dance students to be informed of emergency evacuation and procedures. Access and egress points to be made known to class. All controls to be implemented as per risk assessment. Section 20 of the Safety, Health and Welfare Work Act 2005 requires that a safety statement be prepared, but updated in this instance for the dance class. Step 5. Monitor and review the risk assessment. Risks to be monitored to ensure controls are adequate. Review to be carried out to ensure details have not changed. Any significant changes to demographic or experience of dance students will entail new risk assessment to be carried out. Risk assessment to be reviewed after 12-month period, regardless of changes, to check the effectiveness of same. This is a hazard classification page. Up top we have the different classes of hazard, starting with high. This is any hazard with the potential to cause a fatality or an irreversible injury, such as sight loss. Medium. This is any hazard with the potential to cause a significant but reversible injury, such as joint dislocations or a broken finger. Low. This is any hazard where the potential is only for a slight injury or transient ill health effect, such as sprains or cuts. Next we have the probability of occurrence, which is classed from high to low again. High means high probability, medium is medium probability, and low is low probability. Number 3 is the 3x3 risk matrix mentioned earlier, and this is how we calculate our risk. This is the risk assessment that was carried out for the dance class. As we can see, we have a list of hazards which cover items such as the floor covering, slips, trips, lighting, temperature, injuries, evacuation, awareness of hazards, and removing furniture for class. We have those listed with a risk rating between medium and low. We have controls in place. We also have additional controls in place, and then we have our new risk rating because of these controls. This is the risk control priority table, and in the risk assessment, if there was a red color, this means high priority, which means it is recommended for the controls to be implemented immediately. Green is a medium priority. Controls are recommended to be implemented as soon as practicable. Yellow is low priority, and it is recommended controls are implemented on an ongoing basis. This is the methodology for the dance class risk assessment. The risk assessment was carried out with the assistance of Move It, the UK's biggest dance event. Dancing is a physical activity, and so proper warm-up and cool-down cycles must be used to prevent pulled muscles. Proper hydration must be ensured to prevent dehydration or exhaustion. The most common types of injuries are ankle sprains and torn muscles. Physical and health hazards were the most common of all the hazards identified. Instructors to be properly certified and knowledgeable in preventing any type of musculoskeletal injuries to students. And this last slide is the list of all references used in this risk assessment.